Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Janice Masud-Paul. I'm the Librarian for Health Sciences Research, and welcome to create a Biosketch with SciENcv. Beginning October 23rd, that's Monday, I believe, researchers will be required to use the SciENcv tool to create their Biosketch when submitting proposals to the National Science Foundation. And although it's not mandated for NIH, it's highly recommended. So this is a really good time to consider using SciENcv if you haven't used it in the past. So here's what we're going to cover. I'm going to talk about SciENcv and the advantages of using it, how to access SciENcv, using SciENcv to create your Biosketch, ORCID, and some other third-party tools that you can use to automate the process. And there are some resources that I will be including in my slides. I know that some of you NSF users may be interested in the current and pending support forms. That wasn't something I was going to cover. It was primarily Biosketch, but I'll make sure that I create or include a link to that information in my slide deck, which I'll post when we post the video. My preference was to demonstrate this live, but I literally just got access permissions to research.gov and ERA Commons last night. So I'm going to be showing you this information from screen prints with the intention of redoing this in a live format. Please ask me any questions that you have. If I can't answer them, I'll make sure to provide you with information and also include those answers in my slides. Okay. So what is SciENcv? It's an acronym for Science Experts Network Curriculum Vitae. It was created to simplify the application process, but really anybody that has a MyNCBI account can take advantage of SciENcv. SciENcv is just one of a suite of several tools in the MyNCBI system. MyNCBI can be accessed by using several logins. And as we'll see, SciENcv is tightly integrated with one of those tools, My Bibliography. There are a number of advantages to using SciENcv. They like to say it reduces the administrative burden. So practically what that means is that it guides you through the process of completing forms for proposals, so it improves compliance and makes it less likely you're going to make mistakes. As SciENcv is based on agency guidelines, and it includes links to NIH application guides and the NSF Proposal and Award Policies and Procedure Guide. It supports the most recent form formats for both NIH and NSF. So if you use SciENcv as a tool to create your Biosketch, you're going to be using the most recent forms. And I know there were some changes earlier this year. It allows you to create Biosketches that are tailored to each of your proposals without a lot of retyping. You can generate a PDF from that Biosketch and download it to your device. It's actually recommended that you create NIH or NSF masters, and then you can use that master to create other proposals pretty easily. Finally, you can have a delegate to help you fill out your Biosketch and other financial forms in SciENcv. So how do you access SciENcv? If you're working on an NSF proposal, you can go to the SciENcv link that I have on the slide here. And then once you get to that page, choose the National Science Foundation icon. That will take you to the NSF page, and you would use those credentials for logging on to MyNCBI if you don't already have an NSF linked account. So then once you get to that page, you'll see that it will ask you if you want to create a new NCBI account with your NSF credential or link the one that already exists. There's a lot more information about linking accounts in NCBI documentation called the NCBI bookshelf. but I'll make sure to include a link about that on my slide deck. Now, if you're working with NIH proposals, you probably won't be using the NSF icon to log in, but you have a lot of other choices. So for example, you can use your Google account, login.gov, your NIH account, and now you can use Drexel's login as well. So if you see the more login options at the bottom here that I have highlighted, just click on that and start typing Drexel in the Find Your Login Provider box. Eventually, alphabetically, Drexel University will come up, and then you can just select Drexel University and use your Drexel One username and password to log in. You'll be connected to your My NCBI account. Now, I'm on my NCBI account right now, my dashboard. And it's going to look different than your dashboard, of course, because the content's different. But more than that, this dashboard is customizable. So there are a lot of tools on my NCBI. You may choose not to use all of them, and you can remove the ones that you're not using from your dashboard. You can also move the existing tools around on the page. I actually have mine a little closer to the top of the page just so that I can demonstrate it. But typically it is in the right column at the bottom. You can see in my case, I have a couple of existing documents in SciENcv. If you didn't have any documents there, you would see a link that where I think the wording is something like click here if you want to create a new CV in the SciENcv portal. But if you already have documents, they're going to appear as mine are doing here with a hyperlink. So you can just click on that hyperlink document. Or if you wanted to create a new document in this case, you would click on Manage SciENcv. There's a little link here at the bottom of that portal. So if you haven't used your SciENcv account for a while, and I hadn't, apparently since the last time I used it, they created these mini profiles. So I got this flag that said, user profile has not been set up yet. Click here to edit it and create a profile. So I did that and it was super simple. Here is my edited profile. And again, it's just a little mini profile that's convenient to use in different documents that need that information, where you have your name and your title and possibly where you're working. I also have it linked to my ORCID account, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. So my ORCID ID number is showing up as part of my profile. If you already have a mini profile, of course, you can edit it by clicking here. You can also edit any of your existing documents. Just click on Edit, and it will give you that edit option. Or you can create a new document. So when you create a new document, the first thing you do is name it. Now, this document name is used to identify the various SciENcv projects you might have in My NCBI, but it's not going to appear on the final exported Biosketch. It's just used to organize your SciENcv documents. You're also going to want to choose your format. So you can see that there are a couple of formats if you're using NIH. There are two Biosketches, the standard and the fellowship Biosketch. For NSF, there's the Biosketch and the current and pending support form. And then with the Department of Education, there's the Institute for Education Sciences form. Choose the one that is appropriate for you. I just wanted to say something real quick about the NSF Biosketch forms. Apparently, as of February 15th, the system converted any existing older Biosketch forms that you might have had in SciENcv to the most recent version, which I believe is 23.1. When you access that file, you see it's been converted. Now, with the newer form, there were a couple of added fields. One of them was the country field. So if you happen to click on one of the forms that were older and you notice a little flag there or a warning sign that you needed to fill in a field, just fill in the country information. I believe that's something that's going to show up in the appointments and positions section or the professional preparation section of your NSF Biosketches. So just fill in the country form and it should resolve itself. I don't have NSF Biosketch forms, but I did have some older NIH Biosketch forms. And I received a flag that said, okay, this is older than we're using in NSF now. You need to update this. And again, it was just super simple. I clicked on a link and it updated it for me. When you are creating a new form, you have three options. So you can create your document starting completely from scratch, or you can edit an existing document that you have, or you can use an external source like ORCID or ERA Commons for a portion of the document. Keep in mind that the information from these external sources is going to be static. So what I mean by that is if, let's say I use ORCID and I chose a portion of that ORCID document to update my Biosketch, I can edit the information in the Biosketch, but it's not going to affect the information that I have in ORCID. It doesn't go both ways. That's important because it means that as I update my ORCID, I occasionally will want to use that information to update my Biosketch because it's not automatically going to do it for me. So I mentioned that you can copy a previous Biosketch and edit it to use in a different proposal. This is an example of, I think it's the Part A section of an NIH Biosketch. So if I wanted to use an older Biosketch and let's say update that information, I have a couple of options. I can either delete a row that I didn't want to include in the new Biosketch. Of course, I can always click on edit and change some of the content. Or if I wanted to, let's say, print it out, I could deselect the row that I wasn't interested in including in the PDF. So in this case, I could just unclick the top one and then save it. And when I printed it out, it would only have the second and third row of information. So you can hide your entries that way. Both NIH and NSF citations can be integrated with your My Bibliography collection. This is just an example, again, of an NIH document in the citations section. So remember that My Bibliography is a tool in my NCBI. In this case, the information has been pulled from My Bibliography. And I want to show you what that looks like because you may wonder how you get the information in My Bibliography in the first place. So there are actually three ways to do this. In My Bibliography, you can manually add citations, and that's fine if you only have a few citations to add. But you also have the option of uploading a file of citations into My Bibliography. They have to be in RIS format, which is a pretty popular format for citation databases, so that shouldn't be much of a problem. But by far, the most common way that people upload information into My Bibliography is just to do a search in PubMed. So in this little box here, I show sort of what that would look like. If I was an author, P.F. Brennan, I did a search on my citations using the author's name. I could then select the citations that I wanted to include in My Bibliography by checking them off and click on Send To. Gives me a couple of different places I could send it, but My Bibliography is the choice that I would make here. Once I add them or send them to my bibliography, they're going to show up in a tab to use in SciENcv, and I can choose the ones I want to add to my Biosketch here. Now, this is fine if you're in the health sciences or the life sciences, but let's say you're in a field where your citations aren't necessarily showing up in PubMed. Well, you could work with a tool like ORCID in that case. So there are a lot of different advantages of using ORCID with SciENcv. More than likely, you already have an ORCID ID if you recently work with an NSF or NIH proposal, or depending on where you might be publishing, they typically will require that you have an ORCID identifier now, and you can link information from your ORCID login into my NCBI. So this will just show you how you can link your ORCID login to your NCBI account so that information is available to you when you're creating a Biosketch. Once you go to your My NCBI account, and again, there are so many ways to do this, but in this case, I'm going there from PubMed. There's a little box here for me to log into, and that's going to take me to my NCBI account. I can then go to the account section in my NCBI and choose linked accounts. This box here, do a search for ORCID, and then log in to my ORCID account using my ORCID information, my ORCID login information. At that point, I can link to my NCBI account in SciENcv, and I can use that information in ORCID in order to update my Biosketch. So this is an example where the persistent identifier from ORCID has been used to add to your SciENcv account. It actually does that automatically once you link your ORCID to SciENcv. You do have the option of removing it, though. There's a little trash can here, but I think they assume that if you bother to link your ORCID to your SciENcv account, you want to use that ORCID identifier. Here's an example of how that would appear in one of the NSF forms. This happens to be the current and pending support information form. So it's automatically inserting those ORCID identifiers. You also have the option of using ORCID as an external source. So here, when I'm adding information to different areas of my Biosketch, if I choose ORCID as my external source, it's going to go to my ORCID record and give me the opportunity to pull that information into my Biosketch. As I mentioned earlier, this information is static. So when I pull it from ORCID into the Biosketch, I can edit it here. It doesn't affect my original document here. One advantage of using ORCID as opposed to just my bibliography is basically you're getting a lot of your information from my bibliography from PubMed, as I said earlier. Excuse me. But there are a lot of resources that you can use to pull citations and other information into your ORCID account. And then that information can feed into your Biosketches. So as you can see here, although hopefully you can see that's on this slide, I can pull information from citation databases like Google Scholar, but also Crossref, DataCite, Archive, and others. Here is an example of the same type of information we were looking at in SciENcv, but in this case, it's also showing the ORCID tab. You can actually pull information from either my bibliography and or ORCID. You don't have to select one or the other. You can kind of pick and choose whichever documents are appropriate. So there's the problem of the long author list in ORCID. I think that NIH Biosketch is limited to 5 pages, but NSF is even shorter. You're limited to 3 pages for your Biosketch. So if your NCBI account is linked to ORCID, you can edit your long author list. You just click on the link here, which says Edit Author, and then you can edit it using the phrase et al. After one or more authors. Of course, you want to make sure you choose enough authors to differentiate it from another citation in your list. But after you save that, that edited list will show up on this edited tab, and that's what's going to go on the Biosketch, whereas the long author list is still there as part of your ORCID list, and it has edited, highlighted in red, so you know that was the citation that was edited. Finally, when you're done with your document, you can create a PDF to send to your device and review it. If you're working with NSF Biosketch, I believe you have to certify that. So the certification will occur when you start to download the PDF. You would agree to this pop-up, and then the certification and the timestamp will appear on your PDF. I mentioned that you can assign a delegate to help you with your account. So here's how that works. Again, you would go to that account information in my NCBI, click on Add Delegate, and then just enter the delegate's email address. They're going to be notified that they'll have access. When they click on their link, it will activate the access. They're also going to be invited to create a My NCBI account if they don't have one, because they're not going to be able to access your information unless they have their own account. A couple of notes about delegates. A delegate can manage multiple PIs. So if you have someone in your department that you can work with as a delegate, more than one PI can use that person. PIs can choose what the delegates can see or change. Delegates can't certify PDFs, and I'm talking about NSF documents now. If they try to print a PDF, let's say from your Biosketch, they're going to be notified that they have to reach out to the senior personnel, often the PI, in order to approve that or certify it so that they'll be able to download it. Now, once it's certified by the senior personnel, then your delegate can download that information. If there are any changes that need to be made, though, it's going to have to be recertified by the senior personnel. Okay, so that is everything that I had planned to cover for using SciENcv to create your Biosketch. I'm going to add some other information to getting help, because there's a lot of information about this, and I want to provide you with some links that you can use to get to that information. Again, I should make this available by the end of this week, and it will be with the posted video. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if there are any questions. No questions?
Janice, I have a question.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. This gave a lot of insights, and I will start exploring on that. But my question is, suppose you are searching in the databases like Scopus or even Engineering Village, because there's a lot of biomedical engineering stuff is there. And if they want to transfer those citations from Engineering Village into my NCBI, is that possible?
Yes, as long as you can, and I'm sure you can, as long as you can download that as an RIS
Okay, so
format. Yeah.
okay, so that
Um,
can be done because
yeah,
usually the RIS format to use in EndNote, right? It is the same format. EndNote when
that's one of them. You can use a lot
right.
of them in EndNote, but that's certainly one that you can use. Or if they want to use ORCID,
Hmm.
they can do it that way. ORCID
Okay, I
also
think.
takes, is it, I think BibTeX or something. It takes a lot of different formats.
Mhm.
So yeah, one of them should work for them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, so if you do think of some, I'm at JHM52, and please email me with anything that comes up, and I will try to get back with you and also include it in a live webinar if I get your questions prior to producing that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Janice. I don't see any
Okay,
other
thank you.
questions in chat. So yeah, thank you so much. It was a great presentation.
All right, thank you. Have a great day, everybody.